Now, welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order this March 11th, 2024 meeting of the Snohomish County Fire District 4 Board of Commissioners. Thank you all for coming. Please stand and the flag right there so we can have a true. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please let the record show that all three commissioners are in attendance, although Commissioner Merritt is attending remotely. It looks like he's, I don't know where he is, Belgium or something. Agenda order. Any changes to the order? I have a couple that I would like to request. I would like to move the presentation from the VFW up so they don't have to sit here all night and listen to her jabber. So we'll do that pretty quickly. And also we have a facilities presentation from Lyon and Associates. And we also have some actions that we need to take with regard to facilities. So I'd kind of like to put those together so that the actions will be a little more fresh in our mind about what we have just talked about, so that we can put those together. So if you would allow me that change.
Yeah.
We have minutes from a couple of meetings that we need to approve. From February 12th and February 21st. You had a chance
Yes.
to take a look at those? Any changes, additions, deletions, modifications?
No, I move that we accept as written.
So moved. They are accepted. And now we have post 921, right?
Yes.
Yes, VFW. Here to make a presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to introduce Mr. Otis Wolf, Mr. Chris Kotag from our VFW post, who have a couple special presentations for members of Fire District 4.
Perfect.
Where do you want it, Greg?
Right over here, please.
Yeah, get your face in the camera. Grab that camera. There you go.
There we go.
Okay, once again, some of these faces, a lot of faces are familiar. Having worked for the school district for years, and my son having been a firefighter here at the district for a while. But once again, I had the honor and privilege of being the chaplain or the chairman for the VFW firefighter EMT law enforcement program. Actually, it includes 911 operators. We have not got an entry for that yet. But with the help of Greg writing the recommendations, they're sent on to be voted on by a group of people who have lined up. And anyway, Veterans Forum War of the United States, VFW Post 921 Certificate of Appreciation awarded to Sean M. Withrow, firefighter, Snohomish District 4, and special recognition of the highest praise for alertness, personal courage, and ever-efficient leadership in the guardianship of life and property. Sean? That's
Thank you.
all right, good for you. That's there.
Get in the middle.
Yeah.
Right here, guys. Thank you.
There's a little something for you and your family behind that certificate.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, one more time. Veterans Forum War of the United States, VFW Post 921, Certificate of Commendation awarded to Jose E. Islas. I hope I didn't mess it up. EMT, Snohomish District 4. EMT of the year.
You're in the middle. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, good job.
Right here, fellas. Thank you.
You know it?
I don't, you're the program manager.
My bad. One of you guys is in state competition. Went to the district, became District 1, Department of Washington, firefighter EMT of the year. I'm having a senior moment and don't remember which one, but one of you guys is going on up. And that puts you, if you win at the state level, and we have had District 4 firefighters and EMTs win at the state level, then you're put into the national program. So it's pretty exciting. But thank you again.
Well deserved.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jason.
Otis, thank you.
Beth.
I want to thank BFW for recognizing our firefighters, our EMTs, and always coming. And this year I was even early. I wasn't on time or late as usual. I was a little bit early with all of the information, getting it off to Otis. So thank you both very much. Chris, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We want you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
So now's the time in our meeting when we'll allow public to make comments. If so choose, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. If there is anyone here who would like to speak, here's your opportunity. Was there anyone who submitted anything on?
No.
No. Okay. So, anyone care to say anything? Okay. Moving right along, we've got our normal look at how we're spending our money. Any questions or concerns on that?
No questions or concerns there.
Anything from you, Commissioner Merritt?
Nope.
Okay. Then we are moving into the presentation from Lawhead Investigations.
Commissioner Merritt, can you see that?
I can.
See you Memorial Day.
Frank, if you could take like 30 seconds to allow people, if you want to slip out of here, you can. You don't have to endure all of it. Thank you. So, Mr. Lawhead.
Well, thank you. So we're here this evening to review the progress for Station 41 and 43. Thanks for having us and having this opportunity to present this. We've been working with Chief Waller for a little over 2 years to get to this point through property acquisition and schematic design.
Of course, it's not going to work out.
Try turning it on and off. There's a button on the side.
Oh, yes.
Probably did that. You want me to do it?
Oh, sure.
There you go. Right now, make make sure it wasn't.
There we go.
There we
It
go.
wasn't selected as the naming program.
So now we got that solved, but the toughest part of the presentation. So our presentation is pretty simple. We have broken it up into a couple of different areas. A summary of where we're at, then we'll review 41, followed by 43, talk about schedule a bit, and then open it up for questions. As we mentioned, our site for Station 41 is located between 3rd and 4th in Pine Avenue, and was quite an endeavor to find a piece of property with the chief, investigate it, do test-a-fits to identify how much area of the site that we needed, and through the chief's effort, found a great partner to work on the south half of the site, which is the city of Snohomish. Sorry about that. And just a quick overview of how the site's being developed. In the northwest quadrant, the fire station will be placed in the northwest quadrant of the site. We're taking approximately 43% of the overall site for the fire district. The city will retain the remainder of the site for a variety of structures. Again, this is just more of a site plan view of the site. The station's approximately 23,000 square feet. The majority of that's on a single level. The second level is only on the support side of the bay. We're providing approximately 22 stalls for parking. There'll be parking adjacent to the front entry off the south side of the building, as well as secured crew parking, which the number of crew parking is still being resolved. It will be behind a secure gated area. For the site for Station 43 is the site that's adjacent to us, the existing site. We'll be repurposing the site and creating a new approximately 10,500 square foot facility on this existing site. Again, working with the chief, navigating through the perils of the site that did exist. There was a wide variety of ownership, both in property and in structures, with the city and some other agencies, and that was vetted out, and we were left with a buildable site where we could place a new Station 43 and still take advantage of the connections with Avenue D. So as we'll just take you through Station 41 programmatically. Again, we'll be sitting on the corner of 4th and Pine, which is the northwest quadrant of the overall site. We'll be accessing the site from the fire apparatus standpoint directly from Pine, and there's a return fuel loop off of 4th that would access the apron in the front of the structure also. The public and crew approach via vehicles will be off of the Cypress Street that will be developed in the area that was vacated, that will be repopulated, and that will provide access to the south end of the station, as well as the secured area for the firefighters. And then we'll continue on to the south to provide access to the Civic Center. At the schematic level, we're looking at a variety of utility issues, water quality, detention, storm access to the facilities in Pine, getting our roof water off, a variety of typical issues. The other utility issues will be new service for electrical and water as we progress through. Also, a typical issue with fire stations, no matter what jurisdiction that we work in, is the concept everybody wants to wash their rigs, and that's pretty common. And we're in the process of working with the city on a variety of solutions. The most typical would provide a washing area in the apparatus apron that could be worked with a variety of valves, so pretty much a very simple trench drain and a valve that would divert water from storm and to sewer, depending on the use and the activity that's occurring at that time. Again, as I mentioned, the majority of the station's on a single floor. It's approximately 22,000 square feet on the main floor. It consists of 5 general areas. And we've just kind of broken them down into kind of zones for us to talk about this evening. As you approach the building from the south, there'll be a public meeting area that can be shared with city staff from the civic facility as well as the public. It will be secure. It will provide restrooms for that conference room and be self-contained and isolated from the crew in the station and also the administration function. The green zone here is representing the administration area. We're providing 10 offices with a variety of combinations, some single use, some double occupant offices, workspace, storage space, a small break room, and restroom facilities. Again, that green zone can be secured off with our key card system and have limited access as we go on into the station. The yellow portion represents more the crew area, and also which would include the kitchen, dining, and day room. 6 dormitories in the back sheet is the base design at this time. It would also include an exercise area that will have access through the key card system again to employees from the civic side of the campus. They can access that directly on the exterior with their card. As from the day beaner, the beanery area is located in the upper right-hand corner there, and the dormitories are accessible across the hallway into the apparatus bay for quick response. The red zone is the support area as well as the apparatus bays for the station. There's 5 74-foot deep response bays. The supporting spaces would include a decon area, bunker storage, EMS, air filling stations, and a variety of general storage facilities. And then the building itself requires support spaces, mechanical, electrical rooms, fire sprinkler rooms, communications. So as we kind of view the building from Pine Street, that would be the west elevation, you start seeing the massing that we have. We're in the Pilcheck Design District, which limits us in terms of massing with modulation requirements along the facade of the building, window sizes, vertical heights, the material palette that we can use. And so we've been working closely with the planning director and the city of Snohomish as we move this process along.
Frank, can you explain modulation?
Sure. So in the code, we can only go X horizontal feet before we have to have a relief in the facade. Yes. And then we're approaching it in a variety of ways. Not only would it be a physical break, but we're also using the apparatus bay doors, for example, by using its transparency, we're saying that that provides modulation to that facade. Because the width of the bay itself, we can't really modulate that. And so those are the types of elements that we're working with the planning department to secure those types.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So on the south side, which is the lower elevation, that would be the entry approach. The darker shaded area is the conference room that we showed in the plan. And if my pointer works, I would point, but it's not working, so I apologize for that. But along that facade is the exercise area, and then a solid portion to the right, which would be the closed area of the day room. But staff from the civic side of the site can access directly into the conference space as well as the exercise room if they have the right coding on their security card. And then just very quickly, the upper elevation is mostly dominated by the dormitory spaces that we have. And just in general, the reason why we were required to have a second means of egress out of all sleeping facilities. So all of the windows into the dorm spaces will be meeting the IBC requirements for emergency egress. And then you see the bay, the height of the bay in the background. And we have some drawings that will articulate this better. So not only are we looking at materials at this time in general, in terms of our material palette would be a series of concrete masonry units, which will be honed, which means that they're ground smooth. They have a very smooth texture, and it brings the aggregate of the masonry out for a texture. We'll be working with a traditional brick. We'll be working with horizontal siding, and with that combination, we'll have the ability to add paint and the fenestration texture of the windows themselves. So as you can see from the west elevation, which is pine, we're demonstrating how that modulation concept works, where you can actually see, and it creates, the doors create a very powerful rhythm that allows you to view into the station and be very transparent. Oh, sorry about that. Very similar to some of the modulation that you see down on First Avenue. The other windows are representing that also. We'll also enhance that connection to the history of Snohomish by using some other architectural elements, some additional cornices and small accents to announce that, as well as with canopies, which are not only help us modulate the building and give texture to the building and relief, but form a very important purpose of providing weather protection to the apparatus as they exit and return into their positions. The lower elevation in this layout is the entry, it's the south side, as I mentioned before, where you can see the brick element in the middle of the elevation. That represents the conference room that we talked about. Right adjacent to it, to the left side, is the entry. There's a canopy that reaches out to the public parking. To the left of the brick area is the exercise area. It has its own roll-up door, so on our summer days, which are becoming more frequent now, we can roll that up, blow out the whole space. There'll also be, as we develop the site, there'll be a series of site walls in front of that provide screening and also security to that area if exercise equipment is left out during the day or when a call comes, that it will still be secured from the public. That's a view of this color scheme, mostly gray, with accents of the brick and the concrete masonry units. In this scheme, we're adding in a darker element, a deeper gray, as well as showing what happens when our garage doors aren't completely transparent. When they have more of a feel of what more of a standard door might be considered. There'll be solid panels, envision panels working together. The modulation isn't quite as strong. It doesn't relate to the windows quite as well. So in our negotiations with the city at this point, we're still working with the more transparent apparatus doors. And that's a look at that color scheme. Again, this view would be considered the southwest view station, you'd be like midpoint of Pine, looking at the new station. And then I think we have one other color situation to take a look at. Again, using the darker gray more on the administration portion, which is the element on the upper elevation, the west elevation to the right, with a deeper gray color, we can kind of see that modulation happening. Also in this elevation, we're starting to take a look at introducing building signage, as you can see from the numerals identifying station 41, which would be permanent replacement of the building. Again, the south elevation, kind of same situation. You have a darker tone on the admin building to kind of punch that corner, and then a more moderate gray on the remainder of the building. And this is what this looks like from that view. So that's kind of a quick walk around the building and the elements that we've been working on through schematic design. Since then, we've also been fielding comments and suggestions and vetting out the next layer of the project and working on a couple of items that we may want to incorporate into the design. Here we're demonstrating what it would be to increase the amount of secured parking. So I believe we've increased that to 12. 16. To 16. So it's a double parking lot with 8 stalls on each side. We have a secured fence / wall. Our wall and fence will also have to meet design standards for the Pilchuck Design District. So it'll be a combination of brick and iron and vegetation, all working together to not only provide security, but to meet the visual requirements of the Pilchuck Design District. Another element that we've been working with the district on is to house the antique fire engine and how we want to handle that. And this slide, again, I apologize for pulling everything down. We're showing multiple areas of where that display could be. We could locate it on Pine, and you see a small rectangle down below. We can locate it off of Cypress in multiple places. That would be everybody that comes to the Civics campus or views the would view that from the Cypress entrance.
Yeah, some of the wall is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's 3 or 4 areas that we can place the antique out structure. At the same time, so there's a view of it at Pine. So the lower left perspective shows what that might look like. 2 views of it. It can be a standalone off of the Cypress options. And there's a couple of options off of Cypress that we could do. We can create a situation where it becomes also not only just housing the apparatus, but providing shelter and a place to gather, to have small activities, also to be incorporated into this civic feel on the campus. Cypress is going to will be the major access point for all public vehicles, so it becomes a very visual entry point into the facility. Another option that we're looking at is to attach the display building onto the north side of the station itself. One of the variances that we are working with the city is to actually bring the fire station 10 feet to the south of the north property line. Their code wants us to put the fire station immediately on the property line. But we need that 10 feet for other items, i.e. the most important is to create a better return loop for the engines to return and fuel before they re-enter the structure. So one of the concepts is to take the display building and actually integrate it into the north facade, which will also provide some modulation relief, which we've already talked about. And we have 3 or 4 options of how that could work on the north side. So we would actually get to take advantage and provide use of that 10-foot strip to the north, as well as provide an interior access point from the station into the display building. And here's a couple of options that we can do. Whether we put the operable door on the north portion of the structure, or we put it on the west side and they pull in and we make it more transparent. Those items can be worked out, and we can help modulate the north side of the building, which is very important because the north side of the building inherently does not want to have a lot of fenestration or windows on it, because we're housing specialty type spaces, some that require us to have zero light, natural light, to penetrate that. So again, we're negotiating with the city at this time on a solution. So again, not only have we looked at some additional site issues that we may want to incorporate into the building, we've also had conversations about elements in the structure itself. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the previous slide. We took a look at adding a 7th dormitory. There's the ability to add that because of our future planning that we had already inherently captured into the building, and converting a study into a dorm. We have the exact same proportion, so we could add the 7th dorm without increasing the envelope of the building itself. Then we made some internal adjustments, taking a larger library and dividing it into 2 smaller study rooms for the crew. It can also be achieved by increasing the envelope of the building, by adding a dorm on the east side and bringing the beanery, the day kitchen dining area farther to the south. But obviously that increases the footprint of the building. We also discussed, do we want that kitchen dining area to be a bit more spacious, and took a quick look at what that meant too. Another element that has generated interest is to increase the size of the conference room that we had at the beginning of the building. And again, by placing the conference room in such a way that we could have this flexibility to make these adjustments deeper into the design of the building, it's allowed us that flexibility to add that on. And this represents that type of an addition. And again, just kind of we've talked about this in terms of modulation already, but here's a direct comparison of what the all glass doors would look like and kind of the partitioned doors would look like. Just again, to kind of keep that in mind. So we can circle back on that. The third door option is a high-speed bifold door, which is becoming more and more available for stations. They're relatively expensive, and obviously that is a driving force, whether that will be part of your station or not. Another option that we've talked about is to enhance the envelope and life of the building by adding a rain screen behind our fiberboard cement product. And we would highly recommend this type of adjustment. It will increase the durability and longevity of the skin of the building. It's one of those hidden costs in the building sometimes, but it's something that would be very beneficial. We've looked at solar arrays on the station. The 2021 IBC, which is in effect, mandates a more rigid requirement for solar panels. And so the array to the right represents what we'll need to meet the code requirement. The array to the left demonstrates, well, we could double that if we wanted to. Again, it comes down to the effectiveness in terms of dollars spent, and there's a fairly substantial return on that, probably. So again, I had mentioned a bit earlier, we're starting to look at signage on the building, and there's a couple of options here. Larger letter with smaller text that would articulate in more detail that it's Snohomish County Fire District 4, Station 41. We could have it more abbreviated, Station 41. All these signs could also be, it could be it could be a cut stainless sign. We can also go to more of an acrylic sign that can be backlit in the evening, so it'll have more of a glowing sense. But it's just to give you a general sense of what the massing of the letter might look like, signage might look like on the building. Or we go very simple, it's 41. Everyone knows it's a fire station, and it's pretty clear that what it's stating. So just a couple of ideas on that. And then with all projects, we get to the bitter end, the important elements of talking about cost. We've done 2 cost estimates on Station 41. One more in the pre-planning stage, and a second one that was completed in mid-February. The results were very positive for the mid-February update. Right now, we have a max MACC, the physical cost of building the station is going to be a total of about $16.5 million. The breakdown of that is the building itself is about 10.5. We'll have the cost of the display building. That takes care of the structure on the site. The site work is going to be approximately 3.6 million, and that's site work that's inherent both within the property line and outside the property line. And outside the property line are things that the city requires of us. So we are required to have a minimum of half-street improvements on Pine and on Fort. And those would be covered in those costs. There's also utility costs that need to occur in that. Obviously, these costs, what we try to do is we're not trying to be the low bidder on bid day here. We're trying to hit the mean of the bids, and we're also projecting to the midpoint of construction for the cost of the facility. So with those considerations, again, we're in that $16.5 million range for the actual cost of the project. In addition to that, all projects incur soft costs, which would include a variety of fees, permit fees, the engineering and architectural fees, the attorney fees, furniture, the construction contingency, and of course, sales tax, unless there's a way that we can figure out how not to do that. But haven't done that on any projects to date. So those are some very major components that will also be part of the cost of the project. And this slide kind of articulates some cost to some of the items that we mentioned already. And I'll just go through those really briefly. If we want to increase the size of the conference room, we're adding 246 square feet. That's approximately 68,000 square feet. By adding the 7th dorm, but not expanding the envelope, that's a zero cost, for instance. But to do that, where we're increasing the envelope to add that dorm space, that could potentially be in the $100,000 range, because we're adding square footage to what is considered the base number, which was the schematic design from mid-February, which ties into the cost estimate from that mid-February check-in period. Some of the other items would be the siding upgrade, where I spoke about the rain screw. That's approximately 30,000 square feet. $30,000. What else were some of the highlights that we talked about? The bifold doors, I never really completed a thought or loop on that. For instance, the increase from our base transparent roll-up doors to go to the high-speed bifold doors, that's an addition of $155,000. So kind of a premium element. And what the And what the committee has done is they've created a priority scoring system of how they feel dollars would be best spent in addition to what we have in the schematic design. So that's available for everybody to look at. The solar array, that's a bit of a larger swing. We're in the process of talking and negotiating with Snohomish County PUD #1 on that, but there's a potential that that cost could be somewhere between $100,000 to $168,000 to double that array, for instance. So that gives you an idea of how the committee has been working with us and being very mindful of the dollars that are available. We looked at increasing the size of the kitchen and day room, for instance, and that was going to be about $50,000. Again, it's listed in terms of our priority. We looked at bringing in gas for cooking. That's going to range somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 if that would be done. So I feel like the committee's done a really nice job, along with the chief, of managing the facility as we design it and working hand in hand with us to get us to this point. I also think the chief has really worked well with the city, and we've been able to work very well and create a very efficient building to this point to meet the Pilchuck design district as we know, requirements as we know it. So that was 41, and 43 is in a little bit of a different situation. We're not in the Pilchuck design district. We're not in any kind of special design district. So it frees us up to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of the massing of the building, the exterior materials of the building. So we have a bit more freedom with that. We're talking about the site that's just adjacent to us. Again, the chief has articulated a new site, and that site will accommodate a 10,000 square foot footprint for a new station. We'll be able to retain all the work out on Avenue D and make the same connection, so we'll not be dealing with as much street frontage improvements because we're going to basically reuse what's there. And that gets us to the station itself. Again, kind of zoned in a very similar way as Station 41. We tried to reuse some of the modules within the building as best as we can to maximize the efficiency of the design of those areas. It too has a small second floor storage area that supports the apparatus bay. And again, I'll just take you through the station real briefly. It has a much smaller front end of the building, as you can see. There's a small vestibule that leads into an area that can be secured where firefighters can address the public for blood pressure checks or other medical emergencies. There's a small alcove that can occur in, and there's also a public restroom. The majority of the station is for the crew on this. This is a response station versus a headquarters station. So right away you see the proportion of space is much different here. The program itself is very similar. There's a kitchen dining day area. There's a couple of types of administrative areas. There's dormitories, again, 6 without an officer quarter at this time. And again, just as Station 41 has an exercise area, so does 43, but 43 is really just for the station itself. The apparatus bay and support area, very similar, but obviously scaled substantially back. We're talking about 50-foot bays, 45-foot deep bays, and 4 of them versus 5 at 74, so substantially different in terms of square footage. Very similar support type spaces to the bay. And then just as the previous Station 41 has, there's housekeeping items that need to occur on the footprint of the station itself. And again, we went through the same kind of idea of how do we want to express this building to the public. Again, using a simple material palette of concrete masonry units of brick, board and batt to add different textures that we couldn't use in pill chuck, for instance, and horizontal siding. So, excuse me. That was the D Street Avenue expression for the building, with the public entry to the right, and obviously the apparatus bays more in the center. This we're demonstrating here. Probably the main feature is the lower elevation, which is the dormitory area, along with the kitchen day area on the left-hand side of that. And the upper right elevation kind of articulates the beanery area of the station. But again, we can use a variety of texture in terms of the cement board siding on this to give it some relief. And then also, we're looking at a variety of color options for this facility too. We can stay more uniform with 41 and work in the grays and the brick tones, the natural tones. And you can see that from kind of the southwest corner view of it, where you can see the entry, the vestibule is the corner glass element that's coming out to you. The massing element that's going away from you on the right-hand side is the day kitchen dining area, and then obviously the apparatus. And you can see that there's a possibility of going with horizontal siding on some elements, like we did here on the beanery area, versus board and batt on some areas. So again, being able to provide a variety of texture relief. And so again, we went through and provided that in several different forms. We could reverse the textures on different massing. We can introduce darker tones like we did on 41. We can pull back and use some more intermediate gray color on it. And as in 41, we can go with all glass doors if we would like, but here it's not as much a requirement or imposed element that it might be on 41. And there's a view of those schemes. We also took a look at going more to a different color palette if there was any interest in breaking away from the uniformity of the stations. And there's obviously a variety of ways we can do that. So again, reaching back to our cost from mid-February, we're looking at a $6 million building element, about a $1.9 million site cost, escalation, again, trying to project out to the midpoint of construction. As we'll see in the schedule, 43 will want to and must lag in terms of construction time behind 41, so we can maintain service at the level that is needed. And so that's why we're actually projecting 43 to be the construction period to be deeper into the future. That doesn't affect the amount of time it takes to build a facility. But we get to a total project cost of $9.6 million. Again, adding on the soft costs, the sales tax, permit fees, construction contingencies, those types of elements. Again, in terms of items that we've discussed since the schematic design phase, the elements that would be one for one in terms of a unit cost that we discussed on 41. For instance, a good one is the siding upgrade. That would be obviously proportional to the size of the building. Again, if we want to double the solar array. So there wasn't as unique physical adjustments to 43 as there was potentially to 41. So the base number is pretty much going to be the base number of the building, but with a few possible elements. So that's the physical expression of the building. That's what the district is expressing back to the public in terms of the service and the feeling that the buildings will be expressing to the community. I mentioned briefly schedule, and I'll make this fairly brief. We're at a phase in the project that we consider what we call design development. So what we've completed is kind of finding the property, understanding the utilities at a very preliminary level of utility issues. What could be known at that time? Going through the purchase of the property, preliminary test of fits on the property, understanding the programming needs of the district and the crews within the facilities. Then we completed schematic design. And so now, moving forward, we're looking at phases that are called design development. That's where we're taking these adjustments that we've already are dealing with and doing the engineering and the designing and incorporating them during this next period of time, so we can further explore the cost of the building and continue to move it in a very linear path forward. So design development will occur in March through May. Construction documents, which is the phase of where after design development, the goal would be that's the input that we've got. Now we can have some time where we can actually solve some of these problems. Many times we don't get to do a full solution of suggestions because it's still moving along. Each layer requires not just a change from the architectural component, but the farther we move along in the process and make changes, it affects my structural engineer, the electrical engineer, the plumbing, the mechanical facilities, the civil design of the site, the landscaping of the site, the acoustics of the building. So by being able to solve these problems in a very linear fashion, we try to reach those points of clarity. And when we get to construction documents, in an ideal situation, we can focus and bring all those elements into a complete set of drawings, which will be submitted to the building department to receive a building permit. After the building permit's received, then we move on to the next phase, which is going to be the bidding period, which will occur in December to February. We'll go out for a public bid. We'll negotiate with the apparent load contractor, reach that milestone, and then we're into phase 4 here, which is construction period. We're anticipating a construction start in the first quarter of 25. And we're anticipating the construction to take 16 months. That puts it at an approximate third quarter of 26 to be completed with Station 41. Station 43 is being developed at the same time, but moving at a little slower pace. Our construction document period will intensify and be completed as 41 is being completed. So we can, any changes we can absorb more readily into that element of the project. We have the same bidding, they'll all come out and get permits at the same time. Obviously it will take less, it is assumed that it would take less time to get the permit. For 43, it's a far less complicated building. And then we'll be on track for the December, February bidding period again. But as you can see here, the construction period isn't going to occur until the completion period of 41, including some type of a lag time for us to secure services between those two locations. And then we'll move on to probably it would be closer to a 14-month construction period for Station 43. And this is just another way of looking at the schedule in more of a bar chart, so you can see more of a flow of the project. And that kind of takes us to where we are today. And I'll turn it back over to you, Chief.
Any questions from the commissioners?
I have a couple of, I'll call them pizza guy questions. The decon room in Station 41, I see is only accessible via the apparatus bay. I know that there's a lot of talk and a lot of effort around how decon is being handled and off-gassing of bunker gear and just a lot of new stuff that's kind of coming down the pathway, so to speak. Is there currently any way to, I don't know, isolate that decon room so that you don't have to access it through just the apparatus bay, double door thing or something?
The plan is up, Commissioner, just there, and if we have to have an exterior access to the north side, we can certainly provide that.
Okay. And same thing with 43's decon area,
Sure.
it's the same thing, it's
Yes,
access.
yes, if we need to.
Okay. And then, last one is, what do you know about, maintenance on, the solar array panels? Anything at all? I have no idea. I've heard that they need to be washed every couple of years to maintain peak efficiency, things like that.
Yeah, this is obviously a new code element that everyone's dealing with. Like I said, our mechanical and electrical engineers have reached out to Snowhut, and we'll be working with them directly. And the system that's selected will have that type of information for you to review, and we can give you some direction on that as we move on.
Okay, good. That's all I have.
The access, the access to the conference room and the exercise room, those are spaces that are going to be made available to city employees.
That was what was negotiated, yes.
And you specifically mentioned that from the lobby and the conference room, they couldn't get anywhere else in the station. You didn't mention that about the exercise.
Same thing in the exercise
Same
room.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's only one door that fronts the rest of the station internally, and that card will be keyed appropriately.
When we visited Sultan Fire, when I did, which is a station we designed, they mentioned problems with the heating units,
It's the VRF system.
VRFs,
Yeah.
leaking somehow, condensation or something.
This is a system that's used throughout the world. It's the state-of-the-art mechanical system to be used at this point. We're working with a different engineer on this project, but it's not an engineering issue, it's more of a control and use issue probably, in terms of the demand that sometimes freedom of control can lead to a variety of issues that the unit was not ever imagined to deal with. So we will investigate that and put protocols in place that won't be an issue.
So is it a protocol issue or is it a design change that we need to look at?
I think it's a control change.
Okay. Do you know what was causing it specifically?
Well, everything is insulated, so again, I believe without a thorough engineering review that it's probably a lot of people demanding cooling on, maybe, somebody likes to bundle up with blankets and crank up the AC, and we've all experienced individuals with odd habits, and so we.
Are you saying firefighters?
Yes, I am. And so.
We know what we like.
We need to work that element out.
Okay.
They're looking at it, so the system was not designed to cool that room to 58 degrees, but it's 100 degrees out. So the engineering never contemplated that. So if somebody did that in a room, that would cause the system to not function the way it was thought to probably function.
And I wasn't given details about why I was thinking, just stains on the ceiling, and I pointed, he says, oh yeah, those ain't leak. Okay.
Yeah, it's very resolvable.
From a design standpoint, I shot this question, I think, to you a week or so ago, and I don't think I presented it very well. When I said that the entry didn't say enter here. To me, when I walk up to a building, I want to immediately know where I'm supposed to go in. And I'm just not feeling that in the way this one looks. I don't know if anybody else has.
No, it's a valid point, especially with individuals that struggle with some everyday things like that.
Yeah.
Making it easier would certainly be better for the public. Better signage or more signage or.
Well, we haven't really ventured into the signage. It will be signed. Again, you're going to be on the site. The entry will be, in my opinion, the entry would be very clear that that's the entry point of the building. We can investigate it certainly and articulate it more. Again, we'll balance that off with what the city says too. I mean,
Yeah.
So we're working with a lot of different
Sure.
elements here.
Two things I thought is it doesn't show, I didn't think of it until you said it, but what it doesn't show very well is we're having a privacy fence. So all the yellow there, for the gym and the thing, so there'll be privacy fits there somehow that you can't see from the parking lot. So basically from the conference room east, that'll be blocked, right? So that'll limit what they see as a building to just that blue and green part too. So that'll also help focus
Right.
to that. So, because we're privacy fencing it, so when the crews are out working in front of the gym, the public doesn't come and interrupt them and see them. Don't want to poke the scary fire.
The majority of the parking of the civic facility also is going to be to the south of the building eventually, much more than the 8 stalls that we're providing to the station. And when you look at the south elevation, like Don had mentioned, it's going to be fairly solid, and that is going to be open and lit. And I think it will express itself pretty clearly.
And sometimes looking at a 2D elevation, it's hard to hit that whole thing. I really appreciated the kind of 3D fly-through that you did. That made the building feel more real.
Well, and we can provide more of those. And we can do one strictly at the entry. And I think we can work with all parties concerned and reach a balance with it.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I was reading through some of the basic design, and it talked about an emergency 911 box.
Mm-hmm.
And that's designed to be at the front entry. Is that currently where it is? I'm wondering if because if I'm a citizen and I'm driving and I see it's a fire station, where are they going to pull in? Right in front of the apparatus bay. That's the fire station.
Well, we're restricted by the Pilcheck Design District. We're not allowed to, we have to get a variance to put the apron onto Pine. They will not allow us to have another access point off.
No, what I'm suggesting is putting a phone out there between, on one of those mullions between.
Well, we can do both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just because you know how people are going to drive up there. They can drive there, and if they're in a panic, there's a phone right there. rather than having to circle the building 3 times to find it.
Like the old street boxes.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
I don't have anything else you do.
How about Commissioner Merritt?
Nope, I don't have any questions.
Okay. You're staying awake, are you?
What?
What?
All right.
Anybody out there have any questions? I think there's one committee member, committee members here.
Yeah, I would like to say, coming into this in about the 9th hour out of 12, and seeing the amount of work that the facilities committee put into this, it's tremendous. A lot of thought, a lot of consideration. You guys did a lot of homework. It's awesome.
I'm going to ask a question that I asked that I already got the answer to. If we decide to increase the dorm numbers, is there any contingency plan of how that would work?
Well, we've showed 3 options of how to increase the dorm areas. So one is to physically enlarge the envelope of the building, which was shown. The other is to reconfigure some of the study space and to create the 7th dorm. From an operational standpoint, with the amount of bays that are there, I guess I'll leave that maybe more to the chief.
Yeah, so 7 dorms mean 8 people because they're not counting the VC's bedroom as a dorm when they say dorm. So
Yeah.
7 dorms mean 8 people, 6 dorms
plus
mean 7 people.
Time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the dorms plus the battalion rooms. So we figured 8 is probably max. That's a battalion, 3 and 3 and 2, or 3 and 4.
Yeah.
That is your question? No.
Maybe, possibly.
So there's currently 6 dorms
Yeah,
and a couple of studies.
I'm just thinking, hypothetically, 15 years from now, if, hey, we're going to have 4 and 3 staffing, or, whatever number, like, I guess
Well,
by then I'll be not worried about it.
you'll be Hawaii on the beach. Frank, can you put up the, oh,
Yep.
sorry.
I got a chair again. I can do that.
Is that 41?
Yeah, okay.
So across the back, there's 6 dorms, and then there's a study between the chief's office and the beanery, right?
Yeah, that's the converted.
That would be converted into another dorm.
That's number 7.
Oh, that's number 7. Okay.
And if somewhere down the line, there might be more, that library right there can be converted into 2 more.
Sure.
That space was designed with that in mind.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good question, though, Kurt. This fire station's 50+ year fire station. What does the staffing look like in 50 years? It's a really, really good question. I think that, is that enough bedrooms? Is the question. Is that enough dorms?
And the increase to 7 was as a result of the 3 commissioners kind of wanted to put money where our mouths were, because we told you that we were concerned about staffing. Well, we got to have a place for them to go be, right? So we're going to expand here. I haven't taken a real close look at 43. I'm guessing we can basically do the same thing there if need be. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. We need, the board has before it some options. And this is part of the amending of the agenda. The options that were presented, and Frank and his team need answers on some of these fairly quickly before our next meeting. I think, Commissioner Merritt and Erickson, are we in agreement that we want to add that seventh dorm?
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
looking down the road.
there's a
yes.
plus for that one. That's a no cost though, right? We don't have to worry about dollars. Increasing the size of the conference room. This is something that was kicked around because the library is essentially being lost, because the study room that was between the chief's office and the beanery is now becoming a dorm, and so the library then becomes study room, and we still want to have space to do things, have some small meetings, larger meetings. So the increase in the size of the conference room, 246 square feet, about 68 grand. I'm in favor of that. Commissioner Erickson?
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, I'm okay with that.
I think we could wait on the glazing and the tinting of the bay doors. We still don't have numbers, dollars wrapped around that yet, so I prefer to.
Well, there are numbers in regards to the high-speed bifold doors versus the overhead doors.
Yes, that, but, is this an item that wasn't on your list?
It's just the part that if we keep the role, if they want to do more glazing, we don't have a price for what that might cost.
Yeah, we can investigate that at this level of costing.
Okay.
You know, you're in the ballpark. We have a contingency in our construction estimate to make these slight adjustments, and they're still in bounds to the estimate. So
Okay.
it would be more helpful to know, yes, are we going to add the glazing or not? That would be helpful.
Understood.
The more substantial one would be the bifold.
Yes.
Yeah, I think,
And that's further down.
I think we've pretty well decided that we're not doing bifold.
Correct,
Yeah, what?
Bifold doors. The committee that was like number 11 on their list of 11. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll pass on the
What if
bifold
they can have maybe one?
Yes.
I'm a massive fan of them. I built quite a few houses in my day, and I never skipped on garage doors. So
Yeah.
that's just my perspective. I would say go for it, but that's just me.
The air gap behind the siding seems like a no-brainer. I mean, anything, for $30,000, if we can extend the life of that for however long, it seems it would be a prudent thing to do. You agree, Commissioner Merritt?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Solar, I know that we've got a few more days to talk about this, and if the PUD comes back and says, well, yes, you could be able to recoup this in X number of years by adding these number of panels, I'm then wondering, do we stop at 2 arrays, or do we just fill up the entire roof?
The more solar we add, the more complexity that's added to the electrical system too. That's it. Also, the payback period did not look very favorable.
Oh, it didn't?
No.
Okay.
The initial run from the engineer was somewhere between 30 and 40 years on double.
Do you know how much kilowatts that system creates?
I can get that to you, Commissioner. Yeah. I don't have it at the top of my head.
right, so, I've done one of those systems in my own personal house, and I was just wondering what the, obviously it being a mandate being, what is, yeah, like you just said, the payout by the time you pay off, the return on that.
Yeah.
And you did say it was a mandate?
We have to have the first chunk, so the option is, do we want to double the amount that we're mandated? So we're mandated for the first part, and then we have the option of the second part.
Okay. And we're obviously not storing any of that energy that we create that we don't use, which I guess you would have to give me those numbers in order to be able to answer that.
That goes directly back into the PUD's grid system at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how their accounting system works, but they get to wipe it clean at the end of the year or their fiscal year.
Yeah.
They take they take the energy, right? So there will always be a bill. There is no such thing as a net zero building because the infrastructure must be paid, or somebody is requiring for the infrastructure that you're downloading into to be paid. And then on top of that, if you generate more, that credit doesn't continue on. That's my understanding in our first look into it. So, and we're pursuing that in more detail right now.
Yeah, I would assume that you wouldn't be able to reach, even if you covered the entire ceiling, the maximum amount that we were massive building, we'd be using way more than that, would be my assumption. So.
Yes.
Right. And you're still exploring the thing with the net metering and all that, with the
Well, like I described, they're going to just take your energy. But my understanding is you meter it, you understand what you're producing, how you're using it back into your building. All that you'll get credited for.
Yep.
If you have a surplus at the end of the year, it becomes absorbed by the PD. And I could be incorrect, and I don't want to make any of those assumptions at all. I don't understand their accounting system. So we're investigating it. The mechanical electrical engineer are reaching out to the PUD so we can have a better understanding of it.
We may find that there's a magic number of panels, whether it's 1 or 1.5 or 2.5.
Largest payoff.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm just going to throw this out there, I'm talking Frank, but one thing you could do is give them direction, like if we're, like you're saying, if we're hitting the 20-year mark, we want to explore. If we're hitting the 40-year payoff, we don't want to explore, and anything in between, so that if they start going down a road, they can just stop if it's going to be something that you're not going to. So if you guys kind of know that magic payoff number, I just randomly threw 20 years out. We're looking at a 30 to 40-year building. You would think you'd want to get it paid off before we tear the building down.
I would, yeah.
That's 20 is probably appropriate.
20 is probably appropriate. Yeah, I agree with approximately half the length of the building, or close to 50%.
That way,
And then allow the size of the array to fluctuate and run some different scenarios to find that sweet spot, right?
Okay.
Fiberglass windows instead of vinyl. And the only advantage there is that it allows for additional colors. The committee put it at number 7 on their priority list.
Hey Brian, you cut out on the first little bit of that. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, fiberglass wrapped windows instead of vinyl. And fiberglass gives an opportunity for a larger color palette, whatever color you want the window, basically. With vinyl, you're pretty well stuck with white or brown. Maybe tan, I don't know. There might be 3 colors, but it's $53,000 to allow us to have a painted window. Not sure that I'm sold on that.
No.
Yeah, I think that the vinyl windows don't hold up as long as well, so the lifespan of it, if I'm not mistaken, does that sound right?
Yes, I would agree that we typically use vinyl windows on our punch and our egress windows. The office windows would be the storefront, as it's broken down in our cost estimate that way. So, the energy efficiency difference between the vinyl and fiberglass is insignificant. Vinyl windows are very competitive. So, and they would fit the architecture well. We can integrate that.
All right. So, no on the fiberglass?
No fiberglass.
Ever?
Still vinyl.
Okay.
The other one, we don't have in the spring stuff, and do we have any number for the increased parking yet?
No, that was just brought up.
Yeah, it's just
Is that, I would say it's minimal. They're talking about 3 parking stalls.
Because we're
Because it looks like you're taking those 3 away and kind of putting them over there.
yeah.
So
And then that would put everything behind the secure, right?
except for the stalls right in front of the station.
Yeah, right.
If you, I mean, I was going to say it's probably going to be pretty minimal, and if the feedback to the committee was that was fairly high on everybody's list. So.
My only request is that you make the stalls big enough for a Ford F-350. Because
I would second that.
make them Costco size.
Yes.
Costco size parking spaces, yeah. Anything else that I'm missing here? Frank, is there anything that you need more from us?
With those, we got. The integration. Probably the one that's out there is the integration of the display building. It's a savings of $24,000 to integrate it into the building, and it provides access internally to that. So it also provides some of that modulation issue.
Right.
I think we probably need to wait until we have to hear, until after we hear from the public.
Sure.
If we're going to give them an opportunity to give us input, we should probably listen to them.
Sure, and we still need to negotiate with planning. So even say you put the display building someplace else, we'll be enhancing the north elevation because we'll have to come up with faux windows.
Something anyway.
Yes, so something to consider.
Right.
So the north side is probably a bigger savings than 24,000. That's what we save just on the building, but we'll probably save more by not. We're going to spend some money there or we put the building there.
Yeah.
But yeah, still do the public, but there's definitely something's going to happen there. Money's going to be spent on the north side.
All right. Do we need a formal action on any of these? No.
I don't think so. As long as Frank knows what you do, I think you can do that when you actually accept the bid documents.
All right.
As long as we know that that's what you want.
And while we're here on this topic, we're going to schedule the public meeting for March 21st. That'll be a special, so we have to do a resolution or something?
You just have to make it tonight.
Okay, and that's for March 21st at 5:45 p.m. at the Snohomish Library. And that's going to be to allow public input on 3 things: color and landscaping and where to put the building to put the steam in. Because of the constraints, and Frank has done a really good job, I think, of maneuvering through those constraints. Because of the constraints, there wouldn't have been a whole lot that the community could have had input on anyway in terms of design. Because a lot of times, when I've been involved in this before, we get people from the community on that design, on the facilities committee. So they can, they're certainly not gonna talk about what goes on inside the fire station, because they don't know. But they kind of have an idea of what they'd like it to look like in their neighborhood, right? Well, because of, this is in the Pilchuck district, and it has to look like this, well, you just kind of get what you get. But we do want to offer them an opportunity to have some input. So on those three things, color, the building for the steamer, and landscape. So that's what we'll talk about there. And we need to motion that.
You can do it by the motion, that'll be, you can call it yourself, or you can make it.
I make a motion that we set a special meeting on March 21st, 5:45 PM at the library to take citizen input on Station 41.
I'll second.
Okay. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There we go.
Just one point of comment here. I think we want to be careful what like the statement about selecting the landscaping. Our plan that's in the schematic set right now represents what we feel meets the minimum requirement. And so just to forewarn that costs tend not to go down, they will go up.
Right.
So
I don't know if you could go up from $600 a tree. That'd be
well, I'm just.
And I appreciate it. We will be prudent about taking on a whole bunch of recommendations. I think that's all we have for you, Frank.
Okay.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Yeah, thank you, Frank.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we take like a 3-minute, 5-minute break and
Yeah.
stand up, get a drink of water.
41 is 5, 42 is 4.
Go forward.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion about something new for us. We're excited about it. One of the things that the board is very interested in is to stay in touch with the community. And we are looking at creating a community advisory board or citizen advisory board. And Chief Osborne has some information.
So this was discussed at our last meeting, and I'm going to call it the CAB for short, but either Citizen or Community Advisory Board was discussed, and I attend the monthly Community Coordinating Committee meeting for most of the groups, clubs, organizations, the city, the school district, fire district. We come together monthly and we discuss what's going on in our groups and what's upcoming. And I broached this subject and said this will be coming down the pipe, and some of your groups, meaning them, were going to be targets. And nothing but positive communication came out of that. And that was with roughly 20 different groups and organizations. I want to go deeper than that, because a citizen that might not be in tune with the Chamber of Commerce or a Kiwanis Club, but is a member of our community, I don't want to discount them. I want to find ways. And what I wrote up here was to try and develop a strong initial recruiting process. I don't know how that's going to look yet, but I certainly have some ideas. And some of them are through our social media, and some of them are through our website where people, I don't know how all of that works, but I know my own wife gets things all the time from South County Live. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Which is really neat, because I don't know what they're doing, and now we know. So there's a lot of different ways that we can reach out. Even a short letter to the editor or some print paper in the Tribune, I think, would reach people, because I know a lot of members of our community read that.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of ways to do it. I would like to, as I recommended, I think that we should do it. And I think we have enough talent and power within this organization to reach out to everybody that we can think of and let them know. Included in here are some guidelines, and then just a draft bylaws that have been put together. Nothing set in stone. And I would like, obviously, the board to help set whatever those guidelines are.
Sure.
When we do the committee. But I think it's, number one, a fantastic idea. And I think that we will have a lot of people wanting to come participate. We need to find a way for you to vet those people and then get that committee formed.
How do we reach the single mom that lives out on the Merrill Road, you know? Because they have an interest as well.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make sure that we don't miss anyone or an opportunity to find these people.
I agree, and that was my comment, where I don't want to discount anybody. I want to find ways to reach them. And I know general mailers are fairly expensive, but there may be areas that we can target a mass mailing to.
Well, our newsletter, right?
And our newsletter, that's a fantastic place to put it, absolutely. Because we're sending that out anyway. And for the people that read it, this would be a great spotlight from the chief, from the chair, or from the board in general, that this is what we're thinking about doing. We need your input.
Yeah.
Are you interested? Here are the basic things that we need from you to invite you to the first meeting or to an interview process, however the vetting process is.
Yeah. Well, and I think we invite labor
Absolutely.
with us as well,
Right.
because they're in the community more than we are.
Yes. And they can certainly help reach everybody that we want to reach.
I think that social media is going to be our greatest point of reach, at least from coming from the youngest board member here, is that even old people are on social media as well. I mean, I do agree that people.
What do you mean by old people?
What do you mean, you people?
You people.
So I think educate,
I think we discussed it. We discussed that in Phoenix as well.
Yeah.
But I think that I think
It
it's
certainly is a good tool.
and with our guidelines and bylaws, we can share the expectations.
Mhm.
This is why we want to do this. This is what we hope to get out of it.
Right.
And it's going to take them to give that to the fire district, to the board of commissioners.
Questions? Any other questions? No, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. The only thing that
Mr. Flapp had a question about
I
that.
think that's a great idea, and I wanted to share that with you. I was concerned though under the membership, that it wasn't, in one of those things in there that it wasn't specific, who could be a part of that. If it's just a district, or people outside the district, or what, I don't know. If you want to limit that, how you want to do that, make sure that the citizens in the district are certainly represented above folks that are outside.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I just wanted to share that because it was kind of vague when I read through that anyway. So.
Okay. My initial feelings are, obviously, it's Fire District 4, and we want Fire District 4 citizens on it. The other group that I was thinking of were potential business owners in the community that owned a business here in Fire District 4, but maybe didn't live here.
Right.
So I don't know what the thoughts on that would be, but that was one thing that I had considered for sure.
Yeah, I'm not, I would prefer citizens within the fire district itself, but I'm not opposed to if there are some individuals that come from outside the district, entertaining that, looking at saying,
Yeah.
you know, they've got a really strong knowledge background in this field or this subject or something that we could.
Or business owners that
Yes.
live outside.
And that was my thought. They own a business within the district,
Yeah.
but they might live outside, but they're still contributing to
I think that's all still to be ironed out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have approached so far, other than just mentioning to the CCC, Mrs. Heidi Christine, about finding ways to reach out to the people.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of answers yet, but we're working on them, and I still need to reach out, former Chief Bob Merritt, who has worked with these before, and the other organizations, fire departments that may already have a lot of the legwork done, and they maybe have brought committees together like us,
Right.
standing committees.
Perfect.
So I need to still do that piece of it.
Okay. Thanks for your work.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a couple of things that we need to address with regards to consultants. One being a firm to come on and manage the construction of our new fire stations. And we have been in contact, the chief primarily has been in contact with Turner Townsend Erie, which is a company out of Seattle, I think. And the primary contact there was a gentleman who has done a lot of work in Snohomish, worked for a number of years with the school district, and is very familiar with the operations of our community. And he has made a proposal, and have you taken a look at it?
I took a look at it, yeah. I thought it was a fairly reasonable proposal for, it was.
I was surprised that the
3
price
years.
was as low as
3
it
years
was.
is, a pretty good.
Just the drive for this was kind of twofold. One, Chief Waller is really busy, and and juggles about 27 plates spinning at any one time. And this huge platter in the middle was this fire station project. It was getting a lot of attention because it's so big. And I made the recommendation that we look for some help. The other thing is, these folks that do this for a living know what to look for. They've been down the road before. They know the pitfalls, where things are going to go sideways, and can help us avoid a lot of that stuff. So we asked the chief to find someone. He has found someone. They've made a proposal. Questions, Commissioner Merritt?
No, I don't have questions. Do you need a motion to approve that?
I do.
I'll just add, let me add one.
Oh, wait.
So, and this is just for 41, so I figured we'd get this going, let them start that, and if we want them to continue on in 43, we'll have to bring another one back.
Roll it over.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion's made,
Second?
seconded, all approved, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the second consultant is for the low voltage work at Station 41. It's been a bit of a challenge to find somebody that would come in and do that for us, but we have found BCE. And their proposal is also, I think, fairly reasonable. The only thing that I would, and I don't know what all is going to be covered by this low voltage stuff. Does that include sound reinforcement throughout the building? You know, speakers?
Yes,
You know, okay.
yeah, so they do alarm systems, which I don't think we will, but fire alarms, all of our IT stuff, all of our station alerting, our phones, our speaker system, our intercom system.
So do they design it?
Yes, that's what this is the design part of it.
Not the installation?
Correct. The installation will be part of that.
For the bill package?
Part of the bill package, correct.
Having an audio background, it's really important to have somebody design that knows what they're doing.
Well, that's
You don't want it to sound like a bus station, you know?
correct.
And what I read in the design thing was to make sure that it's loud in the apparatus bay. Loud doesn't matter. It needs to be high quality. So and with a certain frequency range, it can cut through whatever it needs to cut through, what's running down there, so people can hear it. And then in the rest of the station, it needs to sound, this is going to sound silly, but when I was riding with you the other day, and your cell phone came through, and it sounded like HD stereo. Compared to the technology
Yes.
10 years ago,
Yes.
listening to a cell phone in a car was horrible.
And
That's the difference that you can see in.
And that's why it took us so long, because we found one company that we really liked that had that experience. They didn't say this, but I think they wanted a bid on the construction, so they dropped us.
Yeah.
Because if you design it, you have a much harder time bidding. And then we went through 5 other ones to find this one, because all the other ones do basically fire alarms and security systems. And then, oh yeah, we could do that. And so this is another company that's actually done fire stations, schools, things that are like ours, and that's why we want to go with them, because all the other ones had never done, when we said speakers, it was more like, yeah, we could do that. No, we haven't. So,
It
yes.
never worked on transit.
So that's why I think this is we're a little bit behind. I mean, not in a bad way, not such a project, but we're a couple months behind. We would have liked to have this a couple months ago, but trying to find somebody that has done big buildings and with speakers and all that thing has not been easy.
Yeah. Conference room, that's gonna be for
Yeah, these guys will interface with Audi and our IT people so that Audi can tell them all the stuff we want for servers to get everything,
Okay.
and then
Alright.
they'll design all that. So, yeah.
Questions, Commissioner?
No, I think it's something that we definitely need to include in the bill package.
Yeah, it's gotta do.
Yep.
I move we accept that.
Yeah, I agree. my only thing would be is that we make sure that their design carries into the future. You know, obviously things are always changing when it comes to how things go together.
Yeah.
You know, like 10 years ago, I was building a house and we were putting speaker wire everywhere in the house, and now everything's Bluetooth. You know, so just that you know, that line.
Yeah.
But I'm on board.
Okay,
100%.
yep, good.
We're good.
I think we get a motion.
Motion, well, I made a motion.
Did you? Did we approve it?
Second.
All in favor?
Oh,
Yeah.
Aye.
don't want to miss a T or dot an I, come back a month from now, start all over.
So, we've got folks that are interested in reclaiming things from Stubers. And you know, it's unfortunate because there's a whole community of people that's what they do. Old buildings, they have old doors and windows and all that kind of stuff, and it's great. And it would have been perfect had they approached this like 8 months ago. So that when we took the property into possession, we could have said, go for it. But at this late date, it's gonna be a little more difficult to accommodate those because of the training that's going on there and the fires that are coming up. The chief has mentioned that there may be a window of opportunity between the time that the training stops and the live fire starts. So we got a few days, correct? Mr. Hammond?
Minimal now. We had a change of schedule.
Oh,
So there's a window of about 2 to 3 days.
okay.
for things
I
to
thought you were
happen.
gonna say 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah. I could, but
Sunday into 3.
yeah. Yeah, it's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
I had some discussion with a couple of people about it, and there was a couple of people that said, absolutely not. It's like, if you sell a house, you know, once that deed is signed, you don't get access back to it. On the other side, there was the goodwill for the citizens and people that want to do some stuff. My preference would be set up like a 4-hour block, and we need to pass it by our legal folks to make sure that we are, you know, clean. A 4-hour block or something like that they can go in and dig up plants, get the metal detectors out, go scan the area for 4 hours, and then after that.
I personally would lean towards no on that, just the liability wise, I think that it opens us up to liability and having people on the property.
If it's a liability, I would agree with that.
As much as I would say, well, this is public, it's theirs, it's their money, but at the same time, it's like, it just opens up, I think it opens up too many more problems than it would be, too many negatives than positives in that aspect. I would just say no. I've had neighbors approach me, you know, I've had one property across the road, I had neighbors approach me, and I would just say, me personally would just say no, you know, just easier to say, sorry, it's not, the liability is too much of a liability to let everybody on the property digging around. Your thoughts, commissioners?
Oh, whatever the majority vote is, I'm not either, like I say, for, the only thing I would say, if it was we would give them a couple hours to go in and get plants and metal detectors, take nothing out of the building at all, and even if that would be very limited access, you bring a wheelbarrow and a shovel to a gate, and that's what you take on.
We've had a lot of interesting, so just to fill you in, see it all. So we've had a lot of people ask for the same thing. So that's one issue, building parts, but if you said it's not a building, but we've also had people ask for the metal roofing that was taken off. Windows that are just sitting around, and so, but a lot of these we've had more than one person ask for the same thing, so we will do whatever you want, but it's, for me, the making sure we're fair and equal will be
Challenge.
hard to challenge.
I never considered that at all. So let's just deny it all the way. Takes care of the
I
issue.
mean, it would be nice to be. Go ahead.
Would it be possible to have whoever's doing the excavation when it comes to taking the structures down to dig up the plants and put them on the corner of a property and be like, put a free sign on them? When it comes to that, I mean, I do think it would be a shame to just,
So,
you know,
yeah.
throw them all in the bucket. If we could give them away for free, but to have people out digging around, to me, is too big of a liability.
Yeah.
You know, coming out, trying to dig up plants that are way too big to be dug up. Would that be an option, do you think?
I don't know if they would or not. I'd have to ask them. You know, they're kind of like, they want to come in and
Just do the work.
yeah, the huge machines and be done. But also we walked through with a former owner and some of the people from the Parks Department with the city to see if they could take anything for the parks, and the general consensus was that everything there is so old and big, none of it's transplantable. There's some things that people can take cuttings from and repropagate, but that's like, from what they said, that's almost an expert level of the things that are there. So again, we don't mind, and we could even figure out a way to get some of the things up and put them on the side, probably easier than Favor, because they're coming in with the gigantic excavators, not.
Yeah.
As much as I'd like to allow the community to reclaim some of this stuff, I just don't think it's a good idea.
Okay. No, I have no problems with that.
All right.
Okay, we just wanted to, we got enough interest that we felt it was your guys' decision and not our table.
And I
Fair
really
enough.
appreciate it.
Fair enough.
We need to approve the moving expenses. Any discussion on that, Commissioner?
No, they all went above board as far as cost goes, so.
For those in the audience, we have, part of the agreement is that the fire district has to pay to help these people move their stuff. So that's what we're paying for.
It's the law. It's written in the law that we have to.
Yeah, so state whack, public property and, yeah.
Is there a,
I'll make a motion to approve the costs as
there's
written.
no invoice number or anything here yet?
Correct, so you approve it, we'll pay it, but then you will get, what, one of them? Or more? Yeah, just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all in favor?
50.
Aye.
Aye. That's it. And renting the storage.
This is almost as long as the bunker gear.
Okay, moving along, part of increasing staff is increasing staff. Sounds a little redundant, but it takes people to support what you all do. And we are going to be losing a very integral part of that staff in about a year. Christine Heike will be riding off into the sunset with her husband. I don't know whether they're going to live in Maui or somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, so we have asked the chief to put together a proposal, some job descriptions, and a job announcement. And we are suggesting to hire 2 people. Because one to cover Christine and the other to cover the additional staff work that we anticipate will be generated as a result of adding a fire marshal. and that whole program that is going to need to be supported. So, any discussion? We're looking at 2 people. I had a question, the salary range, is that for 2 or is that 1? 137 to 143?
That's for 2. Yeah.
That's for 4. I was gonna say, I'll apply. All right. So, anything, Evan? No.
Nope.
Nothing.
All right. I move that we approve that job description and the salary range.
Yeah, it's 2 jobs.
2 job descriptions, a business specialist and an executive specialist. It sounds important. And they are.
I'll second that, move it there.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And that takes us to the next new position, that being a fire marshal. It's been a bit of a challenge because when you consider the fact that the city of Snohomish hasn't had